Who's your tailor, Ed?
Yeah, I think it's your tailor.
No, I like your tailor. Like, what's the...
I know, look at this.
How is it that you're wearing green? Did your tailor send a message to my tailor and say, Taylor?
Yeah.
Today, it's Green Day.
You know, I've got a camera in your house.
Well, that's a bit spooky. I hope it's not in the bathroom. Or in the family room. Hey, did you know that today is a Green Day in the stock market, though? I know.
I think
what the hell?
Afria pulled a rabbit out of a hat.
Afria pulled the hat out of a rabbit, actually.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was pretty good.
Yeah, up, well, we're going to talk about Afria a bit today.
40%.
We've got, George Robinson is joining us from RavenQuest BioMed to talk about Health Canada's visit to his facility. And no, it's not a CanTrust shit show, it's the opposite. You got a clean bill of health there.
Yeah.
And Charlie Mandan is going to join us today. He's going to tell us about the big reversal that might have been catalyzed by Afria's announcement of profit. And not today, but next week, we're going to dive into Afria's numbers and see just how real that profit is. Is this revenue stuffing, or is this real good, solid numbers?
Real good stuffing.
Real good stuffing. Anyways, follow us. We're going to be back in a second. This Friday, August the 2nd of August, we are dealing with a Green Day in the stock market thanks to Ed.
Yeah.
Ed is buying Afria. Ed, are you buying Afria today?
Somebody is.
Who's not buying Afria today by the looks of things?
At least 20 million shares.
That's incredible. What's the reason for that, Ed? Maybe a
Money.
nice press release?
You know, it's fundamental in nature. They showed us a very green quarter. Very
really?
Positive quarter. Recreational use of cannabis is up dramatically.
Really?
And yeah, they're throwing off cash this quarter.
That's incredible.
We have to really look at these numbers.
It's going to be. I'm sure Afria is going to get a microscope jammed up of its posterior parts by the social media negative crowd out there, because that's just what they do.
Right.
But and did you have a chance to look at the financials? Is it?
I looked at them quickly. I didn't have a real good chance. I'm going to do so on the weekend, probably from the comfort of a nice Muskoka chair somewhere.
So we can. You're going to Muskoka this weekend, right?
Well, maybe a little further north.
A little further north. Undisclosed location.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to come and find you.
Yeah.
So yeah, as I said today, George Robinson's going to join us shortly from RavenQuest BioMed, and then of course we are going to talk a bit about, I just came back from Oregon, where I visited Halo's partner, Elo Corp. Not Elo Corp, I can't remember, damn it. But the makers of the dab tabs, where I was...
The dab tabs that Halo are going to market.
Yeah, Halo currently has the exclusive license to sell dab tabs in California, as well as Oregon and Nevada, and but there are other licensees out there. They've got a really interesting strategy, and dab tab strategy is to license their product to anybody who is an extractor so that they can put their own product into dab tabs. Halo Labs is the marketing partner for that arrangement, so it's a clever way for Halo to actually become a multi-state extractor.
And is this relationship a function of Karen Sadu's
connectivity to the universe of
network?
Cannabis? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No, he's a worker. He's a grinder. Like, this guy's determined. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got some great interviews with the people at Elo, and we're also going to be talking to the people at Shatterizer. But I smoked a whole bunch of
marijuana.
Smoked a whole bunch of.
Say it again. Say it again, Sam.
Shatterizer driven dab tabs on the weekend, and so it's good stuff.
Interestingly, I interviewed the gentleman from Great North. I can't remember. Private company, great interview.
Yes.
And Brad Kerr, and they're in Alaska.
Huh.
And then I said, well, he said, interestingly enough, Alaska uses cannabis. They have the second highest usage per capita of all the states. I said, really? Would California be the first? Oh, no, Oregon. Oregon's number one.
Really? I would be surprised. Oregon's got 300% more supply than demand in the legal market, which means that there's a lot of bleed over into the black market. Last week we saw there was a cannabis markets guy named Alexander Ryder who was indicted by the Department of Justice for trafficking in cannabis.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. So the Department of Justice is starting to crack down, and the sort of the discussion that is going on unofficially in the States is that they seem to be waiting until you've been violating the law for 2 years, because then they can come in and get you on a felony count. So if you thought you were skating past because you haven't had a letter from the Department of Justice in almost 2 years, you might want to move. I want to find a new jurisdiction to conduct your semi-black market activities in.
This Afria thing may have ignited. You know how we've had these separate moves, like you get into a down cycle versus an up cycle, and we've seen a lot of them. You just look at all the charts. I'm looking at the screen go by now. Weed MD's up 19 cents. Like it looks like there's a bid coming in to the sector.
Yeah. Well, let's let news nurse. Who's the news nurse today?
Suzanne?
Is it Suzanne is the news nurse?
Yeah.
News nurse Suzanne Garcia with the news.
Here's what's moving cannabis markets today. Afria reported its results for the fourth quarter and fiscal year ending May 31st, 2019. The company's net income was $15.8 million and adjusted EBITDA of $0.2 million or $200,000. Afria's net revenue was $128.6 million in the fourth quarter, an increase of 75% from prior quarters and 969% up from prior year. Cash and cash equivalents were reportedly $571 million. CanTrust announced that it will likely miss its filing deadline of August 14, 2019 to file an interim financial report for the 3 and 6 month periods ending June 30th, 2019. Management is of the view that there is significant uncertainty with respect to the potential impact of pending Health Canada decisions on the valuation of the company's inventory and biological assets and revenue recognition. Cronos Group has entered into a definitive agreement to acquire 4 of Redwood Holding Group operating subsidiaries. Redwood manufactures, markets, and distributes hemp-derived CBD-infused skincare and other consumer products online and through retail and hospitality partner channels in the United States under the brand Lord Jones. Cronos Group will acquire Redwood for approximately $300 million USD. The transaction is expected to close in the third quarter of 2019. WeedMD has secured a Health Canada license amendment approval to expand production into 10 additional 10,000 square foot cultivation rooms and 10 new processing rooms at its Strathroy, Ontario hybrid greenhouse. Licensing of the 20 additional rooms and ancillary space more than doubles WeedMD's licensed greenhouse production space. Additionally, 27 acres of outdoor grow on the property was licensed and planted in June of this year. The Green Organic Dutchman has renewed its Health Canada licenses for the company's Ancaster, Ontario facility until August of 2022. As per the cannabis regulations, these licenses authorize TGOD to cultivate, process, and sell cannabis from its Ancaster site. Tetral Biopharma has completed the non-brokered private placement offering announced on July 30th. Some of the corporation's directors, officers, consultants, and employees purchased an aggregate of 870,000 units of the corporation at a price of 30 cents per unit for aggregate gross proceeds of $261,000. Each unit issued in the private placement consists of 1 common share and 1 common share purchase warrant at an exercise price of 40 cents per common share. Tetral Biopharma intends to use net proceeds to continue the development of its clinical trials. Suniva announced the closing of its previously announced non-brokered private placement of $5.7 million for a total of 5.7 million units of the company. Proceeds of the offering will be used to provide short-term working capital for operations in California. The company anticipates holding a secondary closing of the offering within the next 10 business days. And that's your news for today. If you want to hear more on weed stocks, check out Cannabis Daily at MidasLetter.com.
You know, I'm just looking at the free press release, Ed, with all of the metrics, and the profit is $200,000 basically. And that's adjusted EBITDA. So adjusted EBITDA, I just want to point out, is not a IFRS standard, nor is it a GAAP standard. So adjusted EBITDA is often indicative of a creative approach to accounting on the part of the issuer. And so we're going to dive into that some more. Whoa, look at that thing going crazy back and forth. So, but anyways, I think more importantly, it's the revenue picture that is what is exciting markets, because that's just outstanding. The fact that they've recorded a, where is it here? 128.6 million in the first quarter of revenue. Now that's pretty good. That's a run rate of, 500 million bucks a year.
That seems like a lot of money.
Yeah.
That seems like a lot of revenue.
Yeah, and so I can't imagine that the ongoing cost of sales is going to come close to that. So I think more than the current profit, it's that revenue number that is exciting the market. The profit is arguable. The revenue is not necessarily arguable unless it was misreported, which there's no reason to think it has. But so that's a very positive development in the marketplace that I think is likely to catalyze a reversal of sentiment generally.
Yeah, like an event, right?
Yeah.
Like look at Tilray's going across up $2 today.
Well, so this is just it. The rising tide, the happy sentiment lifts all boats. Now, still out there in the wind. CanTrust is now threatening not to file financials on time. No big surprise there, since they fired all the people who could sign off on them. And also, a bit of alarming, the revelation that there was $6 million worth of stock trading from the insiders, who are all apparently connected to Eric Paul. And so this story just goes from bad to worse to worse to worse. George Robinson, who we were talking with earlier, was of the opinion, and I can't say as I can agree with him more, that the only option here is for Health Canada to terminate all of the licenses associated with CanTrust, and to basically destroy all the cannabis in inventory. And so I think the worst is yet to come, very much for shareholders in CanTrust. We were talking about CanTrust is basically a race to short to the bottom at this point. George picked a price of $1.50. I think it'll go to 50 cents before it gets cease traded once and for all, and there'll be an asset sale that you think might provide some form of relief to investors in the share price, but no, probably it'll be forced into escrow to remedy the payments for insurance and for lawsuits that are now just piling in so thick. I mean, you can't open any news page without a new class action lawsuit.
Did you see
announced.
the cover of the business section of the Globe today?
No.
It says the OSC has initiated an investigation into CanTrust.
Well,
that's another.
The OSC has.
OSC.
Well, that doesn't frighten me. I wouldn't be so worried about that if I was Eric Paul. But if the SEC does, which I think is next.
No, but it's still ties. It just muddies everything up. It's just more and more, right?
Yeah, no, that's the thing. The chance of salvaging any upside as an investor in CanTrust is now pretty much gone, unless you can somehow short the stock. But I can't imagine how expensive that would be to borrow.
So someone's going to end up buying some assets from them. They're not going to want the company, because the company's going to be having all these legal issues attached to it.
If you buy the shares, you buy the liability.
Yeah. So you buy the assets, which
if you buy the assets, there's no liability.
They'll probably be discounted too, right?
Well, but then you go through the process of applying for a license again, And
Well, they're
arguably-
not going to let the illegal stuff be sold, right? They can't.
No, it can
They-
only be destroyed because it's not technically legal cannabis. So it can't be, no matter what condition it's in. It's not like the proceeds of crime sale that, if you're a gangster, they take your house and sell it to somebody else. In the case of cannabis, if it was not grown legally, it can only be destroyed. And really, the Health Canada is, at this point, the longer they drag their feet before giving notice to CanTrust of the termination of their licenses, the more it calls into question their credibility. One might argue, but also it seems like at this point it's so inevitable that their licenses are terminated that there's not any other possible outcome.
Yeah.
But sad day, sad
So what'd
day.
you think of did you have a good, there's 33-page report put out by Altacorp yesterday on Caron. What'd you think of that? I mean, that's
$6 a share.
But there's also other reports out there, so it's a bit of a consensual, I was going to say consensual, but I think it's consensus.
When you have consensual.
I know. I've had that before.
Consensual
I had it once.
interplay.
I've had consensual once.
You understand consensual, don't you?
Jesus.
Actually, but non-consensual is my favorite.
Well,
consensus,
are you the one?
non-consensus.
We mean when you're not consenting, you like that the best.
When I'm not, hey, whoa, stop it, leave me alone. This is feeling far
this is too much fun.
Exactly. Help me, I'm being...
Please, what? Don't, what? Stop.
So other big upside driver today, Kronos buying Red Leaf, Red whatever it is. Where is that press release? Why don't I not screw it up? And
They
we'll
got
just
a
find the
lot of
press
colors
release.
involved in this game.
Yes.
Hey, you know this
Kronos Group.
This company that is throwing off money, this Great Northern. Well, I don't want to know the third part of the name. It's private, but
Yes.
anyway, they're making money, and they got some catchy names. They got something up there called Tundra something or other.
Tundra.
Yeah,
Thunder.
they can't keep it in stock.
Really?
They grow this stuff, and it looks so beautiful.
What is it? Who grows it?
They got a thing called Bear Spray, which is
Who are we talking about here?
Great North, which I interviewed.
Great North, a private company.
Private company
That I missed.
that may be going to be public.
Oh, look at that.
There
Little
we go.
PowerPoint.
There, okay. Look at
So
these
what?
names. Look at these names. Can you read that? You want some glasses or what?
Chernobyl.
Yeah,
Train wreck. Tundra berry. Ooh, that looks good. Mimosa.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this. Bear Spray. This is a adult
Sexual wellness product.
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
They had big hopes for that one.
Yeah, I actually was holding a box of vaginal rub yesterday. What?
Really?
Yeah, and it's a wellness product.
Was it slippery?
I didn't put any on because where am I going to put it?
Yeah.
So it wasn't hand cream.
Where the sun don't
If it was
shine.
hand cream, I might have tried it, but no, it was vaginal cream. So I looked at the box and remarked,
Is that a pun? You looked at the box? Just
anyway, so but there's a whole bunch of sexual. The funny thing was they called it a sexual wellness product. I don't think.
so if you're sexually ill, you get this product, you're going to be well.
Theoretically, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I think that's the next wave here. Is there's going to be a whole bunch of sexual wellness products.
Well, you know what? The clothing out there seems to be getting more and more
Sparse.
revealing.
Yes. So Kronos Group paid $300 million USD to acquire 4 of Redwood Holdings operations. Now, Redwood Holdings
Is that private?
Yes, was established in 2017. So that's quite a value creation exercise on their part. Hats off to them if it withstands the scrutiny of the market, which is yet forthcoming. It's always a bit of a red flag to see giant asset prices like that. But I would say if it weren't for Kronos, if it was anybody else, I'd be looking askance at it. But Kronos is...
You think they're looking at things with a magnifying glass? You get that sense.
Kronos, Mike Gorenstein's he's no cowboy. Well, he's a cowboy, but he's not...
Not his first rodeo.
This is not his first rodeo. Good
Maybe that's
point.
what you meant.
And he's thorough and he's diligent. So I think that's an interesting... It put $1 per share on the stock price of Kronos Group last I looked, and Look at CanTrust.
What's the
CanTrust is up 14 cents to 301.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy.
I know. You know, you just never know. Maybe somebody
knows something we don't.
Again, if you buy the company, you've got all this legal, all that stays with you. But if you buy the assets, but to your point, the money's probably going to be put in escrow. And interestingly, I made the point too that the CEO's pay, that Mr. Aceto, is very close to the top of the pay for all marijuana companies.
Really?
He's, I can think 2 or 3. Yeah.
Boy, he's probably wishing he'd never gone anywhere near the marijuana business. Because what was he, CEO for 8 months before this shit hits the fan? But apparently he's somehow culpable. I wonder if it's a case of he came in, they said, look, we got a problem that we didn't tell you about, and here's the problem, but now you're the CEO, so you better keep your mouth shut. And he was puzzling over that for a few months, and then shit hits the fan, and boom, it's too late. He's now complicit.
You know, Nicodomi made some good points too about how you've got this big organization, and if you piss somebody off in the organization, like that's working there, and they're seeing that, hey, your guys are doing something. They could. It looks like they blew the whistle, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to take care of your employees.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in the soup.
You bet.
And the soup's getting hotter.
I had a conversation with our good friend Dan McDermott, charting man Dan from the Chart Guys, a little earlier this morning, and here was that conversation.
Wow.
Hey everybody, I'm joined now by Dan McDermott of thechartguys.com. Dan, welcome back.
Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
It's always good to see you. Dan, bit of a reversal in the trend as we speak today. I mean, there's been some positive sort of sector-wide catalysts with, let's see, we'll start with the Department of Justice's approval of the CanX Forefront merger. AFREA is reporting of a profitable fourth quarter. What is it that is turning your crank these days?
Well, it's definitely time to start paying attention to fundamentals. For so long, it's been hype-driven, and fundamentals go out the window when emotional cycles take over. But now we're at a point where everybody's paying attention to these AFREA earnings, and we're just hitting the high of the day right now. And that is key because we're not seeing a sell-off. We're not seeing a ton of profit taking from the big gap up open. Everybody in the Canadian side of things is responding to that. Cron's up 8%, CGC's up a bit. Still a very long way to go on those names. And they're going to have to prove themselves in the earnings that are coming up for them. But as someone who is always focused on the charts and technicals, definitely starting to pay attention to fundamentals a little bit, and we'll see if that's enough of a catalyst to shift the fear cycle that we've been in for so long.
Aha. And so from a technical perspective, do the indicators suggest that there might be a significant reversal of general emotional level in the marketplace?
We're looking for it because we know it's due, and we know the seasonality as we get towards the end of the summer and into the fall, and also towards the potential catalyst of the edibles in October and into December in Canada. So we're looking for it, but we remain skeptical of the bulls until they prove it to us. The burden of proof is on the bulls. And we've seen these little short-term pops, Hexo with one big green day, but no follow-through. And we have to see daily trend changes, which are marked by big bull moves, then a brief pullback, and then continuation. And it's that continuation that keeps pressure on the bears and the shorts, and it shows sustained buying pressure from the bulls that is so important, and that's been lacking in the sector big time.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the buzz around, so that we've got FDA has made some overtures to companies making excessive claims around CBD. The Department of Justice has started to look a little bit more aggressively into proposed mergers and mergers that are actually announced. Do you think that the return of optimism on the bull side is tempered by lingering skepticism on the bear side as a result of increasing government scrutiny?
That's definitely lingering, and also lingering, everybody's waiting, the next hammer to drop is this company going to screw up? Because we have, of course, CanTrust, and we have even HARV on the U.S. side of things, just facing, and even Curaleaf with its issue in its claims. It's a wave of bad news, and now that we have this AFREA good news, the question is, are we through the bad news? Can we start looking towards positive? And again, it's just trend changes that I have to see. Even with this FRIA bull move today, 37%, I want to know what it does next week. I want to know once we top out and when we form a pullback and a healthy higher low, can we get that continuation? That is the most notable thing for me to show the sentiment shift.
Okay, let's look at some charts now and tell me, visualize what you're describing there.
So let's talk trends, and we'll use an example for visualization of what bulls want to see happen, because we have a shining star in the marijuana sector, both in the US and the Canadian side of things, and it's Charlotte's Web. So Charlotte's Web has changed the daily trend, and now it has changed the weekly trend, and it's leaps and bounds ahead of anybody else in the USMJ sector, and even pretty much anybody in the Canadian side of things, for changing these trends. So everybody's looking at this chart and saying, this is what I want my chart to look like. So first things first, back in June, we had a very significant bounce that broke the lower highs of resistance, and a lower high is every time we see a bounce attempt, reject, and then drop to lower lows. That's as far as the bulls can make it before they exhaust their buying power and the bears step in and push the price back down. So in this instance, we saw a solid bounce, almost a 40% bounce, and the most notable thing for me, as I was talking about, is the higher low and then higher high. So again, just to visualize, we have the low of the dump, high of the first bounce, there's our higher low. That's as far as the bears could push it before the bulls said, nope, we're done and we're heading to higher highs. And as soon as we break 2070, that is the daily trend change. Other little important notes, the bear volume was declining, showing the bears running out of momentum, and then the bull volume was increasing on the way back up. That's textbook what you want to see as a bull for a change in momentum. Not only that, after changing the daily trend, we then saw a weekly trend change. So the weekly trend change is the exact same thing. We have the low of the pullback, the high of the first bounce, huge gains, and that's great, but we have to see follow through. There's our pullback. This is the level where the bulls said, nope, we're not going any lower. That's as far as we're going, and now we're gonna start buying again. There's our higher low, and now our higher high, and CWeb is on fire. We're up almost 100% in the last 2 months of trading, and all-time highs are back in sight. And you're not gonna find many USMJ names at all that you can say all-time highs are in the picture at this point. So there's a number of reasons, both news-wise and fundamentals, but clearly standing out. So every name needs to see that happen. We look at a chart like CGC on the daily time frame. Again, every single bounce is just a lower high. Here's the last clear trend change attempt for the CGC bulls. We had the low, high of the bounce. Here's the pullback. There's where the bulls say, nope, we're not going any lower. Time to head back up to resistance. We failed to break resistance, and then we broke support. That told us it was a failed trend change attempt because we could not break that level, and then the bears have run with it ever since. So for the trend change to take place the same way on Canopy as it has happened on CWeb, a lot has to play out. We have to see a bounce on the daily where we top out, a higher low and a higher high changing the daily trend. And then not only that, that's just step number one. From there, we have to see it happen on the weekly time frame with a higher low and a higher high as well. So it would have to be something like that. That's not going to happen anytime soon. For that to develop, for CWeb, it took 2 months for that to develop. So CGC, considering we just hit the low of the pullback yesterday, we could say best case, perhaps 2 months it would take for the bulls to change the weekly trend and notably shift that momentum. So what I'm looking for in the US marijuana space, as so many names are very beat up, is daily trend changes. That's just step number one to get my interest for a shift in momentum, and so many names are struggling to do so still. Looking at APHA, so here's that huge gap up open and our nice strong day today. But again, what I am more interested in is once we top out, wherever that is, what does consolidation look like? What does the volume behind that consolidation look like? And then do the bulls buy and see that continuation move to confirm the daily trend change? This 1 day move is great, but it's not enough for us to be looking at consistent follow through and momentum shift. The bulls have a great chance of changing the daily trend from here with such a clear sentiment shift, but we still have to be skeptical until it happens. So it's all about the shift in momentum, because again, psychologically, what that does is it puts continued pressure on bears. Anybody that enters bearish on that little daily higher low, once we see higher highs, they are now underwater, and it's their short covering that helps push the move higher. And of course, it also shows us sustained bull buying pressure And smart bulls who are not interested in chasing wait for the daily higher load to load. And if that loading is significant, that's when we see that continuation move. So APHA into next week, whether it changes the daily trend or not will be notable. Dip buying is going to be very key for these bulls to get us believing that the sentiment shift has gone underway. But keeping in mind that the wind behind the sails for the sector today, based on APHA's earnings, could get sucked out depending on CGC and Cron's earnings, which are coming up in the next couple of weeks. If we start to see surprise beat by surprise beat, that's definitely going to mark the bottom of the summer lulls and our sentiment shift taking place. But we still have to wait to see what the fundamental reaction is to these upcoming earnings.
All right, Dan, that's great insight as usual. Thank you very much for joining us again today. We'll talk to you soon.
See you next time.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Make sure you never miss a show by subscribing to our YouTube channel and clicking on the little notifications bell. If you're interested in getting monthly actionable investment ideas in the cannabis space to your inbox, subscribe to the newsletter at MidasLetter.com. I think Dan's technical analysis always gives me a bit of comfort, knowing that somebody can take such a systematic approach to just watching what happens as a result of what happens, what's going to happen as a result of what happened.
I know, but I've subscribed to that. When you talk about higher lows and higher highs, that's what starts the trend, right? A lot of these things you can draw lines, top line, bottom line.
Did you see the Richard the tortoise had a birthday? Sorry, Henry the tortoise had a birthday. Hold on, I'm going to try.
Oh my God!
Wait.
Look at this.
Hold on.
Look at this.
There's Henry the tortoise birthday celebration.
What's he eating?
Well, he's eating a cake, birthday cake. It's his 60th birthday, made out of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah. You wouldn't give him a cake, for God's sakes. You'd kill him.
Yeah. But look at it, he's digging that cake. Well, that fruit, that's a big chunk of watermelon. There's the kiwis.
Now, whose tortoise is this?
It belongs to me.
That's your tortoise?
Yeah, that's my tortoise. I ride that to work every day.
Right, so you leave pretty early in the morning.
Yeah, I like a nice leisurely ride to work.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so...
You get a ticket for going too slow.
Yeah. Let's see, what else here? Let's take a look at the cannabis large cap indexes. What the hell's going on here? Oh, that's my next one. We're not going to look at that yet. The cannabis large cap index here.
Wow, up 6%.
Up 6% in a single day. Largely thanks to Afria, obviously.
Sure.
Let's go look at the index constituents. And so even Canopy added 4% today. Aurora put on 7% today. Kronos Group added 6.5% today. But Afria tacked on a 41% gain, adding $2.84 to its last closing price. And so far today, it's at $9.74 on over 20 million shares traded. So that's quite phenomenal.
What do you think that something like this does to the shorts?
The shorts, I think it lights their shorts on fire.
You think it maybe fills them up a bit?
Well, I think it fills the shorts, get a full set of shorts. Whew. They say, you know what? It's time to go long.
It's stinky.
It's stinky, and it's time to go long.
You're thinking, and I used to short a lot, but back in the .com thing, and you think, okay, here's an opportunity to reshort. So you get in a little too early, and it keeps going away from you.
Yeah.
It drives you crazy.
Yeah. Small cap index is even up 1.52%. Shall we tally that? Charge that up to market sentiment as a result of the large cap performance? Well, maybe. WeedMD is the big performer on the small cap index, up 11.47%, or 18 cents at $1.75 this hour. Closely followed by Heritage Cannabis Holdings, which announced last week the $30 million deal to produce some stuff for Kronos Group. So they're probably getting a lot of attention from Kronos shareholders now. They're up 5 cents, or 10.4% on the day, to 48 cents. Even Oxley, look at that, recovering
Buck.
from the skepticism in their their deal with Imperial Brands, up 10%.
You know, that was
to
down to
$1.
70 cents recently. 70 cents now $1. Pretty impressive.
Well, this is it. This is again, we're getting into history repeating here. It's all just a little bit of history repeating. Ba, ba, da, ba. So just like last year, bad news, bad news, bad news, drift, drift, drift to the downside. Then some sector-wide catalysts sort of converge towards the end of the summer to catalyze a reversal in sentiment, closely followed by a reversal in the trend. And I think that this is a very positive step in the right direction, which should have all of the Chicken Littles out there questioning their sprint for the hills. So we'll see. We'll see. Other big performers today, M. Jardine up 10% to $1.25. Chemsys International up 9.57% to $1.26. Harvest One added 9.4%, 58 cents. And TerraSend tacked on 8.6%. As right now trading at $6.79. That's in the small cap space. Now in the venture space, it's interesting that Organogram, who was leading the charge, is not this week in the top 10, or not this day in the top 10. Calix Ventures, it's a 2-penny stock, but look at Pharmacielo reversed course and is up 75 cents, 15.3% to $5.63. Wheat MD we already talked about. Look at James Wagner, up 5 cents to 62 cents. This stock closed at 57 cents yesterday. I was thinking, how many shares are out on James E. Wagner? Let's take a quick look at that.
I don't think there's that many. I think it's like 70 or 80 million. Well, that's a lot, but
54.5 million.
Okay.
Or sorry, 88 million.
I said 70 to 80, so there.
88 million at 6.8, 48. So you can basically take a run at this thing for $50 million. And if you've been out to their facility in Kitchener, that just seems wrong.
State of the art.
It's it's beyond state of the art. It's aeroponic perfection. And aeroponics is one of the best yielding growing systems. And I'm not sure, but so we're going to actually get ourselves a microcultivator's license for a property at an undisclosed location, and we're actually going to start a crop with all exactly the same chemovar phenotype, and we're going to do an orbital growing system. We're going to do one of the growth storm aeroponic systems. And what other systems should we try in there? But we're going to basically do an all things being equal sort of cannabis race.
Yeah, and then you can compare.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, just having one product and just trying it, you can't, if you don't know other products, how can you compare it?
Well, exactly. And it's not good enough to say, well, our all-in cost of production per gram of production is X and ours is Y, because who knows what's being compared. But, George Robinson was talking to me earlier today about his cost of production on the back of Afria's performance today. And here's that conversation.
RavenQuest BioMed is a diversified cannabis company with divisions focused upon cannabis production, management services and consulting, and specialized research and development. RavenQuest maintains a research partnership with McGill University focused on cultivar strain recognition, plant stabilization, and yield maximization of the cannabis plant. The company focuses on partnerships with indigenous communities. RavenQuest BioMed trades on the CSE under the symbol RQB.
I'm joined in studio now by George Robinson. George, welcome back.
Good to be back.
George, there's been a lot of discussion in the broad sort of social universe about the viability of orbital gardens and how effective they're going to be at growing good cannabis. Recently, Health Canada paid you a visit and gave you a very clean bill of health. Give me an update on it, what that visit was all about.
Yeah, it was really great to have them there. It's the first time they've been on site. So they did a full 2-day inspection. They looked right from the very beginning processes to the very end process of our building, but spent a lot of time with the gardens. They spent a lot of time looking at our first harvest results called the Certificate of Analysis. They found out that we had 0 microbial node notices on any of them, but she said this is one of the first they've ever seen at that. So really what we have right now is we have a proven technology that's been growing and growing to the data sheets, which means it's performing to the exact requirements of that cultivar that's laid out. And we've proven the technology is growing to the amounts that we wanted, and Health Canada has given us the nod to say what you're doing is very, very good.
Okay, so then it seems like orbital gardening might be even superior to conventional hydroponic gardening?
I think I'm ready to say that now. You know, sometimes I'm always being a little bit cautious. I don't want to promote, but now that we have the approval of Health Canada, we know what our cost structure is looking at with the crops that are going through. I can say you quite very, very specifically, we can take a run at any flat table environment, any greenhouse, cost-wise and quality-wise. I think we're best conditioned from a growing technology out of anyone worldwide.
Wow, great. On that note, Afria reported profitability in their fourth quarter, but they reported expenses of over $2.30 all in growing cost per gram. How much does it cost you to grow a gram of marijuana?
We're much less. You know, we're probably half of them on the cash cost to grow the cannabis, so that's right through to the drying process, and we're easily half of their price on the all-in, right to the packaging price. We're getting the efficiencies out of the gardens from the cost of power, the cost of nutrients. We only use 21 people in our facility to grow 7,000 kilograms. So we've taken the four major components of cost and we've nailed those down and brought them down significantly, and our gardens are proving what we've said for the last 3 years. It will be the technology, the innovation to move forward.
And so is the uptake in the use of orbital gardening from your partners likely to proceed or rather accelerate as a result of these tests?
I'm going to tell you something, all of our partners are really excited. They had no questions before, but they had approval of Health Canada to say that they were on site, they've seen it. Now all of a sudden the phone starts ringing even more so. And the calls are coming from Europe, which we're extremely excited about, and our local partners here too are calling, and new people are calling. They've started to realize that Health Canada was on site, and they go, okay, all the concerns are gone, the gardens are working, and they're delivering as promised.
So do you think, can this statement be considered factual if we were to say that orbital gardening is in fact the most efficient way to grow cannabis?
I would say categorically yes. There is nothing that's even close to it right now that I've seen. Remember, and I've been in, probably now over 50 facilities around the country. I've been in European facilities. I've taken a look at issues that are in there. Remembering with the zero microbial count off our COAs, that means we have no issues relative to mildew or any other type of bacteria and or funguses that's there. It's completely eliminated in our growing style. And we get that because we can control the environment and the canopy so tightly in that drum. So I can say categorically, we'll take on anyone any day.
Sure. So in terms of growing it in a drum like that, I just like to learn a little bit more about it every time I hear about it. I'm curious as to, so the air movement inside the drum must be present such that there is absolutely zero sort of microbial or pathogenic reproductive activity able to establish. So how do you make the air movement in there consistent across the whole canopy as far as it exists in an orbital environment?
Yeah, so the gardens themselves are really great technology, but really what it comes down to is the complete building design and the climate control design. Where most people are getting away with about 300 feet per minute of airflow through a room, our design has 800 plus feet of airflow through the room. So that's the first thing. Then at the canopy level, we have underflow of air that comes up underneath the canopy as it's rotating, and we have fans across the top of the canopy. So there is no dead space. There's no dead air. All plants are moving. But remember, what's most important about microclimates, as you referred to, is that we don't have all the massive fan leaf that stops that airflow through in there. The plant doesn't need to generate it in that drum. So the plant leaf, the big foliar leaf is not there. So we don't have those restrictions. So every plant has its own movement around it, and they're not overlapping and they don't touch. So if you can do that, you can eliminate that with airflow across it. And we've been able to design and engineer into that canopy.
Wow. So it sounds like you're really on track for profitability, and everything that you've said you're going to do, you've actually achieved.
Yeah, and that some of the numbers that we've been out there promoting, we now know that they're real, and we're going to hit them and we're going to target them. And the fact that we now know our costing structure, and we got some people who are absolutely passionate about growing in these environments, including Dr. Simmerjeet Kaur and her background, double PhD background. We're very excited that we've hit everything that we wanted to do, and it's been 3 years in the making now to see and to get to this point.
Right. Okay, George, let's leave it there for now. We'll come back to you again soon. Thanks for joining me today.
And thanks for having me.
Well, that's the report from George. I think 69 cents all in cash cost per gram of production, relative to a free is $2.20. I think that's where we're going to really have to dive deep on the financials and make sure that we're talking apples and oranges here. But interestingly, George is really heavily partnered with the McGill University, who now has a cannabis center of excellence that includes campuses devoted to law, research, all these different elements of the whole cannabis equation globally. And so one of the things we're going to do is we're going to go down there, and at some point we're going to visit the Cannabis Center of Excellence at McGill University, assuming we can get their permission to come and check it out. But it sounds interesting. And the depth of the science that George was talking to me before the segment about is really impressive. I think that there's a good chance that RavenQuest BioMed could become the canopy growth of Europe.
So let me ask you a question, and I'm going to draw on your extensive knowledge and experience. Extensive.
Wow. That's
so when you look at something like James E. Wagner,
yes.
Maybe it's James E. Wagner.
Wagner. Maybe that's why the plants are so mellow. They're listening to the Wagner.
Oh.
Yes, and that's why
I want to pump you up.
Pump you up. Whoa.
So is what James E. Wagner doing and what these guys are doing, is there any similarity? Because I'm not really a horticulturist.
No. None, except
Totally.
they're both growing cannabis. That's where the similarity ends.
So they are doing similar things.
Well, they're doing the same thing.
But doing it
arguably.
differently.
Doing it completely differently, not at all the same.
And yet, this gentleman that you interviewed is saying that the Health Canada said, hey, you guys are...
Yeah, so Health Canada basically gave them the right to disclose their cannabis as having no pathogenic load whatsoever, being 100% free from foreign biological material. Now, unlike my marijuana, which is probably rife with pathogens, why? Because, well, let's just say...
And you didn't say ripe with pathogens,
No.
You said rife.
Rife.
Full of pathogens.
I'm of the school of thought that believes the immune system originates with the exposure to the broadest possible range of pathogenic actors, and so yeah, but mind you, this cannabis was grown almost organically. I didn't use any chemicals, but what I did use was mineral-based nutrients, because if you use actual organic nutrients, which means
like manure.
Well, like anything biological, what you've created is an environment where everything thrives. Algae, mold, mildew. And so keeping your equipment clean and functioning in a passive hydroponic system, in other words, one where the plant draws up the amount of moisture it wants and needs, as opposed to having been a continuous exposure. A drip feed, for example, would be an active hydroponic. You just need to use a mineral-based salts, because otherwise you're going to be constantly having to scrub those things.
I grew up on a small farm in southwestern Ontario, and I could never understand why. And we had chickens.
Chickens?
So being very frugal in our little operation.
Did any of your chickens play the violin?
No.
No. And so how come you had chickens?
So because we
sold eggs.
Sold eggs. Yeah, we had a little chicken farm, egg farm.
Really?
I was the egg boy.
You were the egg boy.
Egg boy. But here's the thing I don't understand. Why do they call it shit when it's in the coop, and then when you put it on the trailer and take it out to the field to spread it all over the field, it magically becomes manure?
Well, it's probably because you feel better about yourself spreading manure than you do spreading shit. You know, there are a lot of people on this world who would rather stand in shit than be seen shoveling it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember shoveling manure.
Yeah.
I never shoveled shit. I just shoveled manure.
Well, never mind that. If it's in a stall, then you're mucking it out.
Mucking?
Yeah, you're not shoveling, you're mucking.
Like a horse farm.
Well, horses, cows, pigs, goats, chickens, sheep. Chickens, too. You're mucking out the stall, mucking out the coop.
Yeah.
Go muck out the coop, you lazy little bastard. They're
I've heard
up to
that
their
a few
eyeballs in
times. I've heard that a
change.
few times.
I'm sure you have.
How much
and
am I
tell me
getting?
about the S&P. Never mind. Let's
Okay,
talk
let's talk
more
about
about
S&P.
chicken shit.
Okay.
Interest rates are falling. The S&P 500 has reacted in a very strange way to Donald Trump's, well, what should we call it? Bullshit?
Bull manure.
Well, it's bull. Is muckety muck.
So
He's
look,
mucking out his
look,
face.
this is a 1 month chart of the S&P, okay?
Whoa,
And
month.
this is just a 1 month, just to give you
Looks
an idea.
all wacky. Like
Well,
what- those aren't
when
gaps.
when the Fed cut the rate and then made some hawkish comments, and the world thought no more assistance, with buying back assets and all this easing, Look at what it did. It went like that, then it rallied, it couldn't get going, fell again. We're trying to rally here, and not that successful. We're having another day. So we're down, looks like about 100, close to 100 points from the top, which occurred right over here.
Ed, I'm looking at your screen, and there's a problem.
What?
Well, as you can see,
Wait a minute.
we can't really understand.
Why is that?
I don't know.
We got a problem.
We got a problem, Houston.
We got a problem.
Houston, we got problems.
I don't know.
What's going on?
This never happened before.
No? Maybe it's a new day. SPX. Maybe it's a new. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Oh, that's.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So looking at my NDI now, any minute now. There we. What is going on with this?
Yeah. What? We got a problem here,
We got
Houston.
a problem, Houston. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now here are the last few days since the interest rates were cut.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Now, interest rates are
Wednesday. So the third candle from the right.
Yeah. So interest rates now are generally supposed to be cut and inspire the stock market to move higher. So this is, for me, this is the fundamental breakdown in the whole proposition that keeping interest rates low is good for stock markets. If that's the case, we just saw a rate cut. Why has the S&P lost almost 200 points in 3 sessions? And is this indicative of a broader malaise about to grip the entire capital market
Well
system?
spoken. Well spoken
Thank you.
there,
Thank you.
Speaker.
Speaker?
Yeah, I think
Abraham?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think the problem is, and again, we can use some poetic license here to try and figure out what's really going on.
We
but
can smoke some weed to try to
they've
figure out
printed
what's going
so
on.
much money, James. There's so much money.
Yeah.
Now they don't want to give you a return for it.
Right.
They're hoping that they don't give you a return, so you take it and put it into the system.
Well, that's just it. When money is worth nothing, what is it worth?
Well, when you print so much of it, eventually it does become worth nothing.
So this is the thing. If money does become worth nothing, what does that do for your buying power as an individual?
Well,
We're about
why
to find
is
out.
gold moving? Because maybe they're starting to smell hyperinflation.
Do you think that
Because that will happen.
Well, I think that
Buckets of
in a very easy to imagine scenario of not too many years future, Russia and China conspire to liquidate all of their U.S. dollar debt holdings, crashing the U.S. market, while simultaneously springing an attack upon the allies and changing the world currency to a combination between the ruble and the yen.
yeah, but then they'll probably end up fighting because they'll want one of them will want
Well,
to. I don't know.
you
Maybe
see
they want
what's
to go
going
back
on.
to the gold standard.
Look what's going on in Hong Kong.
Yeah, well, I thought Hong Kong was I'm thinking of Singapore. Singapore is the jurisdiction that's ruled by a father and a son that are somewhat benevolent, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Well-
you get 50 lashes with a cane for spitting on the street in Singapore. So I
Well-
don't know if that's benevolent.
It used to be 100, though.
Well, so they're getting better.
They're getting better.
Right. Yeah,
This is going to hurt you a little more than it's going to hurt me.
So this is the thing. All of our cannabis indexes are up in a week where the S&P is decidedly down. We've got
Although they were moving a bit lockstep up until today.
yeah, and so anomalously,
I think so.
Does that work? We'll have to consult the Oracle on that one.
And we were looking at the indices the last few days, and we noticed that the big one was dropping a little bit more than the other ones, and today it's up a lot more than the little ones. So in other words, of course, it makes sense. The money's moving in and out of the big ones, which
Right.
the big money.
Right. Well, but the S&P is starting to take on a bit of an angle of attack. You know, that's a pretty steep drop.
If you
in
look
3
at
sessions.
put up my chart for a minute, please, control room, Houston.
That's yours.
I don't know why we call him control room, we just call him Houston.
Why is your chart so wonky looking?
Okay, you see, so this is because this is not a daily chart. This is a
Weekly.
No, it's a 1 month. But what I want to point out here is, we see this last candle. Okay, let's try it. Let's try it. Something's changed here in my world.
This is last month of what?
Well, the last day here, this last candle. Why? I don't know. I don't know. I can't.
having an issue.
I'm having issues.
Damn it. I got problems. I
But,
got my own problems.
if you look at this last candle, okay, and I can't, this one, there's a big wick on it. We've talked about the big wick.
Yeah.
And that big wick filled a gap from where it opened. You look at here, see there? And here. They're almost identical. So this could set the stage for further deterioration of
Markets
decline.
generally?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and the marijuana space. But look at yesterday, the market was terrible.
Yes.
And CWeb was up 3 and change.
Yeah. Wow. You know, the whole cannabis space, though, is like, if the S&P continues to deteriorate, then today's positive sentiment will not follow through. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
I would think it would be very difficult if we have a sell-off like we had last October.
Yeah.
And we saw, almost a 20% drop in the market in 2 months, 3 months. If that were to happen again,
Yes.
it would have to take the stock market with it, like the cannabis sector with it. Halo's going by at double fours. Double fours.
Double fours.
44.
40.
Well, I'm thinking-
44.
We're at a crap table, aren't we? In a sense, crap table of life.
Crap table of the capital markets, absolutely. Okay, so if we're going to see a reversal in sentiment in the capital markets or in the cannabis space generally, what's your top pick in the cannabis space, Ed?
Are you looking at small cap or are you looking at larger cap?
You just pick.
You know,
What do you think? If you
okay,
had $100,000 to drop on a stock today, which one would it be?
Well, you know what? If the
And you have 30 days before you have to sell it at a profit.
I've got to keep it for 30 days.
You've got to keep it for 30 days, but then at the end of 30 days, you have to sell it. It's basically a forced investment.
Well, I hear a lot of talk here in the office about this. These guys have this. These guys have this. I think if you've got a little bit of an angle, and maybe this Wagner stock's got a bit of an angle.
Yeah.
Maybe RavenQuest has got an angle. I'm not a big cap player generally.
Right. Remember Canix Capital?
Yeah.
Anthony Dutton, who was on our show, and they did the merger with Forefront Ventures.
Yeah.
So the merger was approved this week and completed and signed off on by the Department of Justice. And I sat in on the conference call this morning, and the CEO, Josh Rosen, of the resulting entity, which is now called Forefront, said that their immediate target is $200 million USD in EBITDA. Now,
I've had talks with him way back because these guys seemed like they were undervalued. They seemed like they gave all the right answers when you talked to them, and I really like talking to this Anthony Dutton guy.
Yeah.
So is that right? Where can I find that little?
The symbol's it's going to change to the symbol FFTV, I believe. Oh, let me check that.
200 million EBITDA.
That's the objective. Now, he didn't put a time frame on it. It was very clear about saying that this is not anything that's going to happen in a prescribed amount of time. It's their it's their immediate objective. So I thought that was both very bold because that's like, people always say, well, where's the stock going to go? Well, if the company delivers $200 million worth of EBITDA, that stock is going to be much higher than it is today.
What's the market cap of the resulting entity? Well, we don't know, do we?
Well, let's see here. Let's see how much I can tell you in the remaining time that's left.
Well, we're running out of time.
We're running out of time, Ed, but you know what? The great thing about that is everybody's running out of time. Okay, so
you know who
CNNX
passed?
was the symbol.
Did you hear who passed this week? Tragically,
Yes, I did.
He was on our show.
Yes, he was. So the New symbol is going to be FFNT, and is in Nancy T. The number of securities issued and outstanding will be 120,408,000. But he disclosed a much higher number. It was over 500 million, I thought.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether there's a consolidation in the process or what's going on there, but a bit of a discrepancy there. But the new symbol will be FFNT, and with a company that has a $200 million US EBITDA target.
It's what is it going to be next year or 3 years
Well,
or 5 years?
I had two questions that I didn't get to ask, and one was, what was the methodology used to arrive at 200 million USD? Like, why not 500 million? And then the second question I had was, well, I know you said it's not going to be in any time frame, but 200 million USD over 50 years, because that's not really that impressive. Or is it $200 million run rate within 2 years? That's impressive. So they weren't willing to give any more color on that, and but it was interesting. It was interesting. I thought it very, very revealing that somebody would go so far out on a limb, and obviously with a great deal of confidence. And certainly these guys have a lot of pedigree in the industry. But we'll see what happens. Next week, we're going to be shooting from some weird locations again, probably Toronto Island as an experiment.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to try to get a bunch of people in here who you'll want to hear from. We've made some invitations this week, but yeah, it's the last 4 weeks of the summer doldrums, and I've had my summer vacation now, though didn't really feel like a vacation because it was too short as usual. But we'll be back next week. Look at the little...
Not on Monday, though.
The little... not on Monday. Monday's a holiday here, so we won't be here Monday. No, 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 no. The little bell at the top right of your screen, if you're watching on YouTube, whack that sucker, so that you know when we're coming to you. And we'll see you next week. Have a fantastic long weekend in Canada. Have a fantastic short weekend everywhere else.